David Ellefson of Megadeth. Welcome. I was going to say welcome to Vancouver. We're in Abbotsford, though. What's it like being way out here for a show?
You know, it's cool, actually. I mean, we were just in Vancouver. We had a day off, which was nice. They're right by the bay and everything. So this whole part of the country is cool. It's interesting how we started, a couple weeks ago, I guess, up in Quebec City and Montreal, Toronto area, and then coming all the way across. And, we get a good flavor of how vast Canada is, even though we're just hitting the big cities, but just the flavor of it between, Edmonton to Calgary to get over here, and it's cool, man. There's people don't think about it because they think maybe of only one or two cities, at least down south, as you would say, in the USA.
Right, exactly. But I mean, people think of Vancouver and Toronto generally, maybe Montreal as well, but there's a lot more to the country for sure.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Minnesota, so directly above is Winnipeg, and I think that's where at least one of the members of BTO is from, who are my, national heroes. If it weren't for Bachman Turner Overdrive's Not Fragile album, I wouldn't be here doing this interview. So your fellow countrymen get all the glory on that one.
You know what's funny is I went to school with Randy's two sons, actually.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Tal?
Tal and Damien as well, who does, what is it called, mocap, computer animation type stuff down in Hollywood. So they're both quite artistic.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's funny, Tal's song gets played a lot in the United States. Gets played on American radio a lot. So I got a chance to actually to play with Randy. He came to a NAMM show, and there was a little kind of a private party event at the Hilton Hotel, and I raised my hand immediately to play bass. So that was one of those moments, where it was kind of like the pinch me moment where you get to get to play with the guy who helped you get into this whole game. So it was fun to get to know Randy, and certainly to play a couple of his songs was great.
It's funny, with the metal background, you would think maybe you'd be looking back on some metal bands for influence.
Hey, the thing of it is Randy wrote some great riffs. I mean, metal is very riff oriented. It's not so much kind of the blues progressions, even though early on a lot of Zeppelin stuff was blues based, and the Sabbath seemed to move away from it. Certainly by the time Judas Priest got rolling, it was very much riff oriented. And to us, that's the thing we like about it, is the riff. And that to me was the thing I liked when I heard BTO, especially like Not Fragile. That opens with a bass line. It was like, what instrument is that? I didn't even know what a bass was, and I was like 10 years old, I think, 10 or 11, when I heard it. A farmhand who worked, for my dad had an 8-track, and I used to ride in the tractor with him, and he had the BTO Not Fragile album, and I was like, what is that? I want to do that. I don't want to farm, I want to do that. So that really, at 10, 11 years of age, that was a defining moment for me, and BTO wrote just big, heavy riffs, and that's what got me excited about it.
Very cool. I understand you mentioned that you went to Vancouver, had some time off there on Friday. I understand you saw one of our more pristine attractions here in Vancouver, the dueling Starbucks of Robson Street.
I love that. I've been there before. That's why I told Chris, I go, dude, we got to go over and shoot a video, because Chris, we're all Starbucks guys. Actually, our, Sean Drover, being from Canada, he's a Timmy Ho guy, as we call him.
Right, of course.
Guy. But, he throws down some Starbucks with us. So, but Chris is the kind of guy who calls me at 10 o'clock at night and goes, hey, you want to go get a coffee? I'm like, I can't drink coffee at 10 at night. But we went out and we had some sushi last night, and I said, man, we got to roll over to the Starbucks. You got to see it, man. It's just too cool. So it was great to go over to, to that area and like you say, dueling Starbucks.
With all the traveling you've done more than a lot of people have. Have you seen that? I've always found it odd. A lot of people in Vancouver don't quite understand why there is two Starbucks. Have you seen this in other cities?
I can't remember if I mean, there's always one like within a block from each other.
Right.
They're famous for that. But to just strategically place them, that you walk out the front door, because they're set on an angle. So you walk out the front door and you're looking at a Starbucks. It's almost like, as you have Starbucks in your hand, you go, what was I thinking? I should have gone to Starbucks. Then you just walk. I like it. It's kind of like you walk up one side of the street and they catch you one way. And then as you turn the corner and come back down, you're like, about that time, you're pretty, it's probably half hour later, you're probably ready for another Starbucks.
Right. And if you're lazy, you don't have to cross the street if you don't want to.
Wonderful marketing,
From doing the metal show that I do here, I know that a lot of fans were very, very excited when it was announced that you would rejoin Megadeth. Maybe bring us back to how you and Dave sort of got back together and mended the friendship and more importantly, the music after that.
Sure. I think you said it best, is that, it was really about just developing a friendship. And, Dave and I met when I was 18, he was 21. We were very young. The band was always in the front of everything. It was the goal, it was the mission, it was what we did. And, even though we hung together, we lived in, with various people. We'd move in with people. They didn't know we were moving in with them until they got their phone bills,
Right.
Every good fledgling rock band, we had a post office box where our mail could get sent to, and then we'd have to run up people's phone bills. And we generally tried to pay them. We weren't trying to be sleazy about it, but, we were broke too. So, we slept in the van, we slept on, rehearsal room floors, we did all that stuff. And, it's interesting how you can live 5 feet from somebody, for 20 years like we did. Almost 20 years as Megadeth, and then when it came to an end in 2002, it's like you find that the business of running a band it consumes you, So our time away was actually really a season of, Dave would come through town, he'd call me up, we ran into each other at Starbucks. Yeah, there's a Starbucks right by where I live now, and kind of by where Dave used to live when he lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, and a lot of Megadeth business meetings took place there.
Right.
They were the let's go to Starbucks and talk shop, so we'd go and hook up. And anyway, we ran into each other there, and so just, these were, these were cool times to kind of just develop, we didn't have our guitars on, and we weren't in a studio, we weren't working, so it was just a chance to just get to know each other. Dave and I have a lot of things in common between our, wives, kids, school, families, so that, to develop that, so by the time we got back into the room with our guitars on to play, that was the easy part, because we know the songs, we know how to get on stage, we know how to do all this,
Right.
That we've become pretty adept at, but developing a friendship, man, and people watching this who may be in bands, they probably can relate to that, So that was really a period of kind of getting that together. So when the time came to go out and do the Rest in Peace 20th anniversary in March 2010, was a great way to do it because we went out on a very big high five celebration for us, for our fans, and I think then to plug me back into the whole thing again was just, it couldn't have been, it's like kind of a storybook ending,
And then to go into the studio and create new music with the latest record, 13, and maybe explain what that was like to sort of get in the studio again after a few years.
Well, again, Dave and I had made a lot of records together. We know the way they work. We know some ways that they don't work.
Right.
There's a lot of processes in place between, especially by like the late 90s, we had worked with several different producers, different times management got involved. And there were times when management got involved, say like on Countdown to Extinction and on, say, Cryptic Writings, where we had some really good direction and really kind of good support behind us as we were putting those records together. The Risk record, as we've talked about, was one where the band, we wanted to get in and make a record. We probably could have taken a little more time just to chill and kind of decompress off of the Cryptic Writings tour.
Right.
Because to roll right off of a tour and go in the studio can be daunting. However, that's exactly what we did on this record, and it was completely different because there was really a great energy coming off the road. We just done these big 4 shows, we'd done the Carnage tours with Slayer. Just our whole scene, our whole genre was really united during those couple of years. So to come off the stage, go right in the studio, press the red button and start recording new material was, I think 13 captured an excitement from us that wouldn't have been recorded had we come off the road and taken time,
You speak of your genre, the genre of metal, now in bands like you guys, Anthrax, Slayer, Metallica, the Big Four, and then everybody else involved. Seems like they've kind of, in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, leapt to a position of almost like a classic rock band where they're completely respected for the history that comes behind them. And obviously, as we all remember from the 80s, it wasn't really the case. They were kind of outlaws back then. It must feel pretty good.
It is cool, because sometimes when you just don't die and you don't quit, you sort of get the Purple Heart,
Right. Nicely put.
Right, and that's kind of what we got, and not for being a bunch of old guys. I don't think we look too bad. We've held up pretty good through all this, but I think the thing of it is again the last couple years to go out and celebrate anniversary of, say, Rest in Peace. But then to also go in the studio and still be relevant and make really good current records too.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that really, Slayer never changed much. Anthrax went through some lineup transitions, as we did, but I think certainly on our behalf with Megadeth, there's always been a consistency there. And that, I think, is probably the other side of the respect coin, is not to only be known for your history and your legacy, but to know that, wow, these guys can still carve out some really killer new songs.
One thing I didn't know about you is that you have a bachelor in what's the word I'm looking? What you have a bachelor's degree, business. Yeah. And now that must come in handy in the world of rock and roll. Do you wish you maybe had that 20 years ago?
Well, it's funny because when Dave and I started this whole thing, we were a partnership, and then at some point, you incorporate, and usually it's accountants and business people kind of setting your business structures up, and it's meant to, obviously protect the business and for all the purposes of how things run, but over the years, those things change a lot, and you learn a lot, especially as young musicians. We didn't go to business school, so you learn these things. So all these years later, to go to college and study these things, you kind of go, hey, wow, well, we did that, right? And you go, wow, I wish I would have known this then, because we could have, gotten through, especially as you're, as any business, and certainly a rock and roll band, you're always signing contracts, and you're always having to get in and out of different deals. If you really want to make money in the music business, become a lawyer.
Yeah.
Every musician, you got to use an attorney to get in a deal, and you got to use an attorney to get out of a deal. So, that's, if people always ask me, how do you make money? Well, that's how you make money. So if you want to do it for the art, you almost really have to just not focus at all on the money. You have to not focus on the business. And your business is sort of put together as a way to kind of, sort of support what you do, but the business can't be first. The business always has to be behind the music and the art, because if they get the other way around, you really take your eye off the prize, I think.
David Ellefson of Megadeth, thanks for your time. Have a great show tonight, man.
Good. See you.